guys, today I'm doing my January wrap up for you. At the start of the month I had a couple weeks off work, so that gave me a lot of time to read, and yeah, I've read a lot of books and I've been really excited about BookTube obviously, so that's helped. I'm just going to give you a rundown of everything that I read this month and a little bit about what I thought of each book. So the first book that I read this month was one of the Penguin Little Black classics. So this one is The Maldive Shark by Herman Melville. Herman Melville wrote Moby Dick, which I haven't read, but it says dark, nightmarish sea stories and poems inspired by Melville's adventures around the world's oceans in a whaler. Most of the stories in this were actually just descriptions of different places, and I quite enjoyed this. I especially liked the poem that this is named after, The Maldive Shark. It's really pleasant to read. It reminded me of Jabberwocky from Alice in Wonderland, that type of poem, so I really liked that. The rest of it was pretty wordy, like, because it's all descriptions, it's kind of a heavy sort of read even though it's really short. So it did take me a little while to get through, but I really liked it. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The second book I read was another Little Black classic. This is The Figure in the Carpet by Henry James. This one is a short story about a guy who basically is told by an author that there's a hidden meaning behind all of this author's works, and he spends a lot of his life trying to figure out what the hidden meaning was, and I really enjoyed this. It had a really unexpected ending and it had twists and stuff, and it just makes you think about literary intent, like why authors write what they write and all that kind of thing. And I really liked this. It was a very fun read, so I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. January seemed to be the month of autobiographies for me. I read 3, I think, which is a lot, to the point where I'm over them now. I didn't particularly enjoy any of the ones that I read either, so that didn't help. So yeah, it's going to be a few more months, I think, before I can pick up another autobiography. But the first one that I read was Not That Kind of Girl, A Young Woman Tells You What She's Learned by Lena Dunham. I think my first mistake in picking this up to read was that I don't know anything about Lena Dunham. I haven't watched Girls, which is the TV show that she's known for writing. It's kind of a collection of essays about her life. She had some witty things to say about different things that had happened to her, but the essays for me were too random and none of them really seemed connected, and she mentioned so many people that I couldn't keep track of who was who, and she kind of mentioned them again later and expect you to know who they were, but then sometimes she would write as if she hadn't mentioned them before, like they were supposed to be read separately. So it was just a bit of a mess for me. I prefer books that are chronological or have a more defined sort of order to them, because even though it was divided up into sections, each section within itself still had no order. It was just a random sort of collection of thoughts about that particular subject. So I didn't really enjoy this. I think I would have enjoyed it more if I was a fan of Lena Dunham instead of not really knowing anything about her. So if you like her, I would say check it out, but if you don't really know anything about it like I didn't, I don't really recommend it. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. The second autobiography that I read this month was Ne'er-Do-Well by Simon Pegg. This one I enjoyed a lot more because I am a huge fan of Simon Pegg. It's just interesting hearing things from his point of view. It wasn't particularly captivating, but it was mildly interesting. Some of it I kind of skimmed over because like some of it was just a bit boring, but I did like it and I liked reading about Simon Pegg from his own point of view. So I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. The final autobiography that I read this month was Confessions of a Sociopath by M.E. Thomas. This one I picked up because it sounded really interesting. It's a journey into the mind of a sociopath. I really didn't like this book. It wasn't what I was expecting. I really didn't like the voice in this autobiography at all, and I just couldn't get past that. They just sounded like a dick. So I didn't really want to know anything about them. If it had more like science in it or more about psychology, I would have been okay with it. But yeah, I gave this a 1 out of 5 stars. So that was it for the autobiographies. Thank goodness, I'm so over them. I didn't really enjoy any of those that much. So yeah, back to the novels. The next book that I read in January was Party Games by R.L. Stine, which is a Fair Street novel. I did a review on this, which I will link down below if you want to know more about it, because I loved this book. It was really fun to read. It's R.L. Stine, so of course it's going to be great. Fair Street is his young adult series, like Goosebumps but for young adults rather than for children. So I really recommend this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and if you want to hear more about it, I'll link my review in the down bar below. The next book that I read, I also did a review on that I will link below. It's Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. This is a horror novel. It's a classic. It's super creepy, and that's all I'm going to say about it. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars as well. The next book that I read was a reread. I reread Molly Moon's incredible book of hypnotism, which was one of my favourite books from one of my favourite series from when I was a kid. It's the first book in the series. It's about a girl who lives in an orphanage and she learns how to hypnotise people. So I reread this because I watched the movie that came out in 2015 and I wanted to reread it to have it fresh in my mind before I watched the film. I actually did a video on this as well. It's my like book to movie adaptation review, so I will link that if you're interested in knowing more about this. Isn't the cover cool? I love this cover so much. The next book that I read this month, actually I should have included this in my autobiographies. I forgot about this one. So 4 autobiographies in a month. This is Franz Kafka, his diaries. So after he passed away when he was 40, he had allowed, I think, his friend to publish his diaries. So this is all of his diaries from when he was in his late 20s, I think, up until the year before he passed away when he was nearly 40. And I really enjoyed this because it's surprising to me how much I can relate to Franz Kafka. I didn't think I would really think I had that much in common with him, but he's a really normal guy, and he goes through periods of depression and anxiety. Even though he was a very successful author, he's quite down on himself at points. And in the foreword by his friend who published this, you know, he does say that when people write a diary, they generally don't write so much when they're happy and when things are going well. They tend to write when they're feeling down as like a way of releasing that negative emotion. I really enjoyed reading this. There are some great quotes in here. I got most of these books out from the library, so I actually want to buy this one because I would love to go through and write down some of the stuff that he said. He makes some really great observations about life. One of them in particular that I will share with you is he was saying, I'm not going to quote it exactly because I'd have to go back and find it in the book, but he was saying that it's hard writing a diary because you really want to represent yourself accurately, and it's kind of impossible to do that. Everyone really is incapable of expressing themselves perfectly in a way that everyone understands exactly who you are and what you stand for. He says some really meaningful things in this. The final book that I read this month was another reread. I reread Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. It's been one of my goals for 2016 to reread the whole Harry Potter series, so I'm going pretty well with that. Only 5, 6, 7, only 3 more to go. Yeah, only 3 more books to go and then I've completed that goal. So I'm pleased that I got through this one this month. I really enjoyed rereading it. So that's it for my January wrap up. That's all the books that I read this month. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about them. If you've read any of them, leave your thoughts in the comments below, or if you want to read any of them, or if you can recommend books that you think I will like. By the way, I forgot to mention ratings on a couple of these. Hold on. Molly Moon, 5 out of 5 stars. Kafka's Diaries, 4 out of 5 stars, just because there were certain bits that I did skim over, like he does little reviews of like operas and plays that he's been to, so yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. And Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, of course, 5 out of 5 stars. So now that I've actually given you all my ratings for all of these books, that is it for my January wrap up. I will see you next time with my next video, which will be my February TBR. Thanks for watching. Bye.